Hey YouTube, what's going on? Chris here. Want to bring you guys a quick update. We're just going to run through this quick on Bitcoin. Guys, different areas that I'm looking at and what I'm kind of anticipating here to the upside and to the downside. So let's dig into it, guys. If you could like, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you like these daily updates. I'll keep doing them for you. So guys, what I'm seeing here is obviously we're having these higher lows that are established and we're having lower highs that are established. So we're getting to this squeezing point. And one of the main reasons why I feel like we potentially could have a breakdown is just due to the fact that kind of look at this overhead resistance that we're dealing with, the guys. First of all, we have our 20 EMA in green, that's overhead. We also have our, this would be our 50 moving average in blue there. So we have both of them coming down right on top of us, and this is on the daily chart here, guys. So you can see those. We had the 50 cross over the 20, right, and we've been getting pushed down. Now another thing that we're dealing with, do you see this trend line that I drew from up here, guys? It's going to be an important trend line break. If we do break it, we could really move to the upside. If we bounce off it, guys, we could really move far to the downside. That's why I said this is a critical area right now. This trend line in yellow here, we're running up to this. So if we can't break through this with volume, guys, then we're most likely going to be falling to the downside with all this overhead resistance. We have moving averages, we have this trend line coming down. Say we even break out of that, we have this top trend line. That would be a fourth touch right there if we were able to get up to that, which would be hard to break through. Now if we broke through that, our targets would most likely be around that $5,600 area. I mean, that could be a huge break if we do get up above this area around that $4,300, $4,200 area, guys, right in that range. And a lot of times you'll come back up and then you'll test it again and then you'll move. So you got to pay attention for that. Same to the downside. Say we had a break, guys, sometimes it'll come back up, test it again, and then move down to the downside. But we want to keep our eye on this. These are key areas, guys. And what I'm also reading about, I'm really digging in deep to trend lines. I got another book, that deals with trend lines. They're saying basically the stronger the trend line is, you'll see these larger gaps. Like this is actually a pretty good gap here in terms of the days on the trend line. So the wider the gap, and then the more touches that you have. So say you have 2, 3, 4 touches there, the stronger that's going to be, and with the anticipation of it holding, guys. Now, when you do have the break, though, to the downside and that trend line breaks, it could be very violent. So you want to pay attention to that. Now, another thing I was reading about, you see here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days that we've just been working up this trend line, and that kind of means that the bulls and the bears, they're just equal here. They're just fighting back and forth, and we're deciding if we're going to break up or if we're going to break down. The decision hasn't been made yet, but there's a consensus in the market that price is kind of where it's supposed to be for this moment right now before we have one of these violent breaks. And many people think it's going to be a capitulation break to where we could go back down to that $3,100, $3,200 range, which very well could happen, guys. You have to be prepared for that. Because in these now, especially with the trend being down, you would think that this would be a continuation pattern that would push us to the downside, especially with decreasing volume. Now, do you see volumes decreasing as well on top of this move? So in my opinion, and remember, guys, this isn't financial advice, but in my opinion, we got about a 70% chance breaking to the downside, 70-80% to the downside, and about 20% chance breaking to the upside, which I'm prepared for the upside. But in all actuality, guys, I feel like we could just continue following this trend at this point right now. So let's do this even here, just so you can see. And I think it's important to go back and just look at the history of things, guys. I'm going to clear this off just a little bit. You guys have seen those. We're going to get them out of the way. You can see the 200-day moving average right up here, guys, around that 58. And I do feel like we'll test that again at some point, obviously. I just don't know how long it's going to be until we get there. And the reason why I'm more prone to us going to the downside, guys, even though we set this higher low, which is good on the daily, we're happy we hit that. But take a look at this right here. I mean, this has not stopped, guys. So we've had right here, right here, right here. Look at these lower highs that have just been taking place. Even that fake bull wick, do you remember that, guys? And then here, and then here, and then here. We have not made a higher high since December of last year. I mean, it's been over 13 months, guys, since we have made a higher high, and that's what guys are looking for. They're looking for this higher high to be set. Once they see that, they're going to wait for that pullback, another higher low, and that's most likely where they're going to go. They're going to go long at that point. But with decreasing volume as well, we got to pay attention to that. And guys, I'm just going to go through some indicators now and see how they're looking. We'll hit up the RSI quick. And please, guys, let me know what you're doing in terms of Bitcoin right now. Are you waiting for a break to the downside, the upside? Are you preparing for both? Guys, here's the trend line we're going to want to keep our eye on at that point for the RSI. The RSI is still kind of in that neutral zone. We're at 44, so we want to keep our eye on that, see what's going to happen there. And guys, we'll get all this stuff off as we go. But what I do like here on the RSI, we were at least trending up. Do you see that move right there? And that's been taking place since November 18th. So if this does break here, guys, that could be a violent move of anything of 20, 30, 40% to the downside. It could happen really fast. So that's why I want you all to be prepared for that. Next one, let's take a look at the MACD, how that's looking. All right. So on the MACD on the daily here, it looks like we're starting to get a little bit of a hook though, guys, so that's good. Remember, lagging indicator, but we still want to keep our eye on these type of things. All right. So what you're going to notice here is the histogram moving to the positive, which is good, and you're starting to get this little hook here that we want to pay attention to. And what you can do is kind of look through the time frames as well, guys, and then you can go like to the 12-hour and see how it looks. See if we're getting that continuation. We're getting a little bit of a cross right here. So that's good. And then you can also look at the moving averages and see if you get any crosses here. We had a cross to the downside, got pushed to the downside. So moving average crosses are very important as well. And then with our MACD here, just keep working through, guys, and seeing. Now it looks like on the 4-hour, we could start moving back to the downside. So that's why you want to look through all these different time frames and kind of see and judge for yourself. And then you add them up all together and say, hey, do I have more bullish? Do I have more bearish? What's taking place here? All that different types of stuff. So it's pretty important to look at those things, guys. And then the next thing we're going to do is a quick Fibonacci on here. See if we're in any important areas. So guys, right now we're sitting right above that 0.618 as well. And that's going to be basically off that lower trend line. So, you know, a lot of people were looking at that. Maybe that's a place to go long. The only thing I don't like with that, guys, is all the overhead resistance that you're dealing with. So for me, I'd want to wait for a break and for some type of confirmation on volume, which would be important. But a lot of guys go long off that 618 after a 618 retracement. You know, you move up this high and you have that 618, then you move up for the next leg here, and we'd see if we could get up above. And then, guys, we'll do the Fibonacci in this direction as well. I like to do them in both. So we'll just take from that move right there. And guys, we got up above the 236, but what happened is we lost it, and we're back down again. So that's a bearish sign. It's very hard to get up above that 236 again. And that's why it was nice when we held it here, but it was just brief, and then we fell back down. So the follow through just hasn't been there, guys. And that's what I guess I'm most disappointed about, because what I was hoping for was that this inverse head and shoulders would play out. I mean, everything was looking nice, but this right shoulder just ended up not working out. Ended up getting a little too squirrely on us. Everything else was looking good. We had, excuse me, guys, good volume for the head here. We had good volume on that capitulation dump for the left shoulder. We had our little reaction. Everything was going good, but we did not get that volume follow through on that right shoulder. And that's where you have a lot of problems. You don't want to mess with shoulders that get real squirrely like that. That's one of the key signs. You want that good symmetry when you're looking for that inverse head and shoulders. So guys, let's just keep an eye, very close eye on these moving averages. If we can close up above them, that would be great. Say we get up above these and we close today, awesome. That could be a huge sign. But you know, you got to look at this overhead resistance we have, especially around 4,200 is going to be a heavy resistance, and then maybe a little bit with these wicks here, guys, around that 44. But if we get out of there, we can really run fast because we've had such an extreme drop here. But these are the things that I'm looking at for Bitcoin, guys. I mean, you just really have to pay attention to this. It's just the opposite. If you look at this bull market here, do you see the higher highs that were taking place and the higher lows? It's the exact opposite now. And another thing that I was looking at, why we may be getting closer to the end of this bull market or bear market here, is take a look at the bull market. It really didn't last that long, guys. This was really fast here. I mean, from the really start of the rise here, we're talking April till December, and now look how long we've been in this bear market. So, you know, guys, maybe we are coming to the point where we just have that accumulation for a while before we do start the next one. But, you know, I'm preparing for another leg down. That's what I'm doing. Huge overhead resistance is going to be around this $6,000. Look how many times we touched it, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, this is going to be massive overhead resistance. That's why the break was so violent when we actually did break out of this. And if I put a horizontal here, you can see, guys, that once we broke out of that, it was so violent to the downside on such great volume because we held it for so long in that descending triangle. And just look at that descending triangle like all of us were talking about for a long time. There it is. And we were pounding lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, pounding, false breakout there. And then the bottom just couldn't hold anymore and we lost it. But these are the things that I wanted to bring to you guys. Just keep your eye out on them. There's not a ton to talk about right now, just moving sideways up that trend line. But this is the time to study. This is the time to pay attention and just continue to grind, guys. And if you could like, subscribe, all that, I appreciate it. It really helps us out, especially in this down market and all that type of stuff, guys. Thank you, and God bless each and every one.